Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Friday evening, May 9, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season. That's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section, but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what that's been like in your year recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific era. Alright, so we're going to be looking at this brand new graphic that was created by the US Climate Prediction Center. They're highlighting that for the time period from May 14 to May 27, there is no tropical cyclone development that is expected. So it's definitely in line with what's expected as we head into the Eastern Pacific hurricane season, and we know that they usually start issuing some amount of updates for the Atlantic by that time period as well. But we're also going to be focusing our attention on some posts that were made here on Twitter. The first one is from Alex Borham. He stated today that the cooling of the MDR has stopped. The cooling of the main development region in that has stopped. This is what he's referring to. This region right here between Africa and the Caribbean. So we've been talking a lot about how it has been very cooler than average and the implications that it could have regarding hurricane season, whether or not we're going to be getting above normal numbers or below normal numbers in terms of the storms. So he stated that the cooling has stopped and even reversed a little in recent weeks as trade winds have weakened. Easy to see where this was felt most, with the particularly high sea surface temperatures at 60 degrees west. So you can highlight it right here, especially right here across the Eastern Caribbean right here. Definitely very warmer than average. He stated also, however, it seems like the trades will re-strengthen somewhat soon, blunting the current warm-up. So he stated that although there has been some definite warm-up right here, especially across the Eastern Caribbean and the western portion of the main development region, the trade winds, the easterly trade winds at that, going to be strengthening as we continue throughout the month of May, and then we might just get some more cooling off of these sea surface temperatures. You know, the sea surface temperatures are basically responsible for, keeping these hurricanes going, keeping them strengthening in general. They thrive off of these very warm sea surface temperatures for sure. And he's also highlighted the trend regarding the sea surface temperatures across the main development region, showing how they've definitely dipped, and that has been talked about a lot, but they've definitely warmed up since, especially the last part of April into this time period. And we also are highlighting a post that was made here from Andy Hazelton. He's a scientist at the University of Miami that sometimes makes some accurate posts about the hurricane season. He stated here, here's my first version of the sea surface temperature comparison plots for this hurricane season. As a reminder, these remove the global mean anomaly to account for long-term trends, compared with recent neutral to cool ENSO seasons. Mostly, the Atlantic main development region is warmer at this point than years like 2021, 2018, and 2019, but definitely cooler than 2017. And he also stated the PMM we've seen recently also shows up cooler waters west of Mexico. So he's highlighted these images here showing 2021 and how the sea surface temperatures looked on May 8. We see the very warm waters of the Caribbean into the western main development region. In 2017 we see something similar right here across the Eastern Caribbean and the western main development region. Very cool across the central to the western Caribbean and the main development region to the eastern main development region. He also showed us 2018. Look at the very warm sea surface temperatures across the main development region into the eastern and central Caribbean. 2019 as well was highlighted. The southern main development region, eastern Caribbean, western portion of the main development region, the central and western Caribbean for sure. So it's very interesting. What could actually occur this year, given the similarities with those years? And you can go back, you can even check Wikipedia to see what those years were like in terms of the storms that we had. The number of storms very above average for the most part over the past couple of years. It's going to be very interesting to see how the 2025 hurricane season plays out, and I will definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us, according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next 168 hours, that's the next 7 days. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall. So let us see what's going to be taking place. As we head into Saturday morning, we know 12Z is representing 7 a.m. on Saturday. We don't see much of anything across Jamaica. We see more whites than anything else that represent little to no rainfall. We also see an area of low pressure across the southern U.S. extending down with some moisture across the portion of the Gulf and even into portions of Mexico. Then by Saturday afternoon, we see that rainfall across mainly central and western parishes in the greens. Let us see if we have agreement on the GFS, because we know that when we have agreement, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. So Saturday morning, just like what the Euro was showing for the southern US into the Gulf and Mexico, but not much of anything on Saturday morning for Jamaica. Then on Saturday afternoon, just like what the Euro was showing, maybe some rainfall across sections of some central and western parishes. Very interesting. We also see an abundance of moisture across portions of Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and the Leeward Islands, just like what the Euro was showing, especially across Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. Very interesting. On Sunday morning, not really seeing much of anything across Jamaica, maybe some isolated showers across the far eastern end. On Sunday afternoon, look at that. The greens represent rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What is the GFS showing? Sunday morning, not much of anything, so we have contrast here. The Euro was showing rainfall across the east, GFS not showing anything for the island. Then on Sunday afternoon, look at that. The rainfall is more so across the northwestern end of the island as opposed to what the Euro was showing. And we should also highlight the moisture that should be affecting a portion of the southeastern US down to Florida, the eastern Gulf, Mexico, and portion of Central America right here. We see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with that. On a Tuesday morning, is it Tuesday morning that we should be looking at it? No, it should be Monday morning. So on Monday morning, we see rainfall across the far eastern end. On Monday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Monday morning, not much of anything on the GFS. Monday afternoon, maybe some isolated showers across sections of central, and western parishes. Tuesday morning, what do we see? Maybe some isolated showers across the far eastern end. Tuesday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes. The GFS for Tuesday morning, rainfall to our west, rainfall to our northeast. And then on Tuesday afternoon, rainfall across main sections of some central and western parishes. What does Wednesday morning have in store for us? On Wednesday morning, we see rainfall to our southeast. On Wednesday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show for the same time period? Wednesday morning, rainfall to our west, rainfall across our eastern end. Then on Wednesday afternoon, we see rainfall across the waters to our east as well as across southwestern parishes. Very interesting. What does Thursday show? On the Euro, Thursday morning, not really much of anything. Thursday afternoon, what do we see? Maybe some isolated showers across eastern, central, western parishes. Secularly, we see that it's mostly some isolated showers, some hopscotch with the days as well. Maybe if we're not getting it today, it's coming tomorrow, then the next day nothing. Or it doesn't seem like that robust kind of May kind of look that we would normally get in terms of the amount of rainfall. But it's still early days, it's still the first half of May. It's gonna be very interesting to see how the latter half of May actually looks. And we know that if we don't get that May rain time period, those major rainfall events in the secondary rainy season, May, June, if we don't get it in May, we could definitely get it in June. And we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Friday, May 16. Not really seeing much of anything on the Euro right here, maybe some isolated shores to our south and east. Also see some rainfall across portions of the Leeward Islands. What does the GFS show for the same time period? On Thursday morning, we see rainfall to our east, rainfall to our south in the green. Thursday afternoon, rainfall across mainly central and western parishes. Then we're stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Friday, May 16 as well. And we're starting to see an increase in moisture. Look at that. The Euro wasn't adamant about that, but we do see the rainfall across the southwestern Caribbean, the central and northeastern Caribbean. Jeff is a bit more robust about the moistening up of the atmosphere as we head into the middle of May. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of this plays out. And whatever happens, I will definitely be here to keep you posted with all of what occurs. And we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days are in store for us in terms of the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps. Both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until Friday, May 16. And we can clearly see that over the next 7 days, the most rainfall should be wherever we have the dark rays, purples into the pinks. We're talking about portions of Puerto Rico, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, sections of St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, even maybe sections of Barbados, section of the Gulf, the Yucatan, Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, Eastern Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana. These are the areas that should be picking up the most rainfall, that we know represents anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of rainfall over the next 7 days. And the GFS is still adamant about the most rainfall right here to the southeast of Nicaragua, to the east of Costa Rica. Wherever we see the light shades of blues, that's where we know we could get up to the maybe the 8 to 12 or 15 inches of rainfall range. Very interesting. It's gonna be very interesting to see how all of this unfolds. Maybe some isolated flash flooding taking place in some of these Central American countries. But clearly, other areas that are shaded in the greens, yellows, oranges, and reds should be getting in on anywhere from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall to an inch of rainfall. We're talking about areas such as the Bahamas, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, Turks and Caicos, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, section of the ABC Islands, sections of Honduras, Nicaragua for the most part. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with this forecast. I know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. But regarding Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation forecast for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until Friday, May 16. And we can clearly see Jamaica shaded in the blues, greens, yellows, represents anywhere from a millimeter of rainfall all the way up to at least 30 millimeters of rainfall. The Euro going all the way up to at least 38 millimeters of rainfall, especially across the western end right here, across Westmoreland. GFS, we see the blues into the greens, that represents anywhere from 1 millimeter of rainfall, at least up to at least maybe about 15-20 millimeters of rainfall, especially across the western end, right here across the cockpit country, leaking into portions of eastern Westmoreland, sections of St. Elizabeth as well. Also see some of those greens across the far eastern end, eastern Portland, eastern St. Thomas. And we see that as well on the Euro. It's going to be very interesting to see all of this plays out. And whatever happens, I will definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. But clearly we don't see any significant amount of rainfall expected over the next 7 days. But that could definitely change as we head into the last 15 days of May. Alright, let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. You can see some frontal systems across the southeastern US. You can see that we still have that airflow pressure right here to the east of the Bahamas. A ridge of high pressure right here to the north that we know is responsible for sending all of the easterly turbulence across the main development region into the Caribbean. And we see another low pressure system attached to a frontal system right here to the north of the Cabo Verde Islands. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost sunlight, you can see the clouds associated with the frontal system and the areas of low pressure across portions of the southeastern US. Lots of cloud showers and thunderstorms, especially across the Gulf and the southern US states. We can also make out the clouds associated with that low pressure system right here to the north of the Cabo Verde Islands right here. And we can make out the area of low pressure right here to the east of the Bahamas that we mentioned on the surface map. We can also see the low level to mid level flow of the clouds being steered from east to west, all courtesy of the ridge of high pressure to the north. And we can make out the upper level winds being sheared off from southwest to northeast of northern South America. We'll be talking more about the weather across the rest of the Caribbean later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Friday, May 9, 2025. So if you remember yesterday's video, we highlighted that we could have received some rainfall, especially across sections of some inland areas of some central and western parishes, maybe northern portion of some southern parishes, if not southern portion of some northern parishes. So we're talking about maybe some southern portions of Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, and some northern portions of St. Catherine, Clyde, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland. And what ended up happening? At around 3:55 p.m., the visible satellite images were posted not only here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, but they were also posted on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So looking at the visible satellite images of Jamaica today, you can see that we definitely had those clouds building up across sections of some central western parishes, but it was more so focused across sections of some southern areas of some northern parishes. So we are referring to sections of southern St. Mary, sections of southern and central St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, section of Hanover. That's where the brunt of the cloud cover, if not the isolated thunder shower activity, was taking place. And if we take a look back at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before we lost the sunlight, we can definitely make out that easterly flow across the island. Then we have those clouds building, especially across section of the northern areas, definitely across section of St. Anne, section of southern St. James, section of Hanover, and we saw those clouds being sheared off towards the east by that upper level wind shear for sure. Clearly the southern parishes were getting in on sunny skies, if not partly cloudy skies. For the most part, maybe some isolated showers across eastern Westmoreland, northern St. Elizabeth. That's just the most in terms of what we got today. And if we take a look at the inferred close-up satellite images of Jamaica before, this time we can make out the convection being sheared off towards the east. All of those blues and greens that represents those cumulonimbus clouds being sheared off towards the east by that upper level wind shear. And we can even make out some brief isolated thunderstorm activity. We see the sparkling white that's in there, especially across the cockpit country, southern St. James, northern St. Elizabeth. That's where the most of the rainfall was today, if not the thunderstorm activity. And if you take a look at the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, this map does indeed paint quite the picture of where we might have had that rainfall today. Definitely across sections of some inland areas of some northern parishes, southern areas, if not central areas of some northern parishes for the most part. So it was definitely, yes, that central western parishes flow, but not necessarily the southern parishes at all getting in on that. It was mainly the north central, if not northwestern parishes getting the brunt of the rainfall today. I definitely have some confirmation from some of our followers on our Instagram page confirming what the weather is like in their area today. We have Marlon _ one God _ stating Clarendon sunny. We have Giovanni Pantan stating Spanish Town sunny. And I am very grateful for the comments that you guys wrote today. Thanks for confirming what the weather is like. Alright, so we're going to be looking at the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website. Let us see what's happening right now across the island. The latest image is showing 0015 UTC, which is actually around, let's say, about 7:15 p.m. So this just came out 17 minutes ago, considering that it is 7:32 p.m. right now. As a matter of fact, a new image is supposed to come out in a couple of seconds. Before we even look at the new image, let us see. Okay, definitely, I knew something was missing. We were supposed to look at the flat bridge camera today and see what took place. Yeah, so the flat bridge camera at around 1:30 p.m. This was what it looked like. Now let's rewind and watch this truck take the car now. So this was 1:30 p.m. today. Bogwalk guards definitely murky the signal that rainfall that they got for the past couple of days, but we see that for the most part it is dry, definitely dry today across this area. People in their vehicles going about their business. Nothing significant took place today. Even the live camera showing that there's not much of anything that is taking place. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams for your viewing pleasure, halfway tree crossroads, and they're planning on increasing the amount of cameras that they have in and around the island. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Alright, so going back to the infrared, as stated, another image is supposed to come out. So we were showing 0015 UTC, so it should be showing 0025 now. So this is now valid for 7:25 p.m. So this just came out 8 minutes ago, considering that it's 7:33 p.m. right now. And what do we see? Not much of anything across the island. Maybe some isolated clouds, if not isolated shores, across sections of Hanover. You also see some thunderstorms out to sea to the northwest of there. Definitely some, convection, blues, greens, yellows being shot off towards the east southeast. Sparkling white dots in there that represent the lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. Let us see if the latest Cuban Doppler radar, the latest Guantanamo Bay Cuban naval radar, the latest Cayman radar can confirm any of that. Unfortunately, it looks like the Cuban Doppler radar glitched out early this morning at around 4:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which was actually 3:30 a.m. Jamaica time. And that time, look at that, we see some rain bands coming into far eastern St. Thomas. Did you get any rainfall? If you reside in far eastern St. Thomas, let me know if you got any of that rainfall that was on the Doppler radar early this morning. Did you wake up to a soaking wet ground in your yard? Let me know. The Guantanamo Bay Cuba Naval Radar Imagery not showing much of anything across southeastern Cuba or northeastern Jamaica. But we did see some rain bands right here across portions of northwestern portions of, or the western peninsula of Haiti in general. So looking at the Cayman radar, we can definitely make out the rain bands right here to the west and to the northwest of Hanover. Definitely in line with the latest the latest infrared that we're referring to. We see the thunderstorms, so it makes sense. We see clouds over there, we see thunderstorms over there, so it makes sense that the latest Cayman radar is actually showing the rainfall in the greens, the yellows that represent some weak to moderate to maybe some strong or heavy rainfall out to sea. And if you take a look at what's happening right now, the live camera from See Jamaica's YouTube channel on this Friday evening, showing 7:35 p.m. Very busy halfway tree. Lots of people going about their business. People in their vehicles going about their business. The Friday evening traffic as usual. Everybody trying to get home or get to KFC, Pizza Hut, somewhere to have a meal or whatever the case may be. As we, try to enjoy our weekend in general. And the night should continue to be fair for the most part. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see we have 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Saturday, temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 22 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18th on Saturday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Saturday. You can see Jamaica right here embedded in some yellows and some slight oranges. It represents maybe even all the way up to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. I know the normal temperature for the month of May across Jamaica is around 89 degrees Fahrenheit. When that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that's around 31.6 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 31.6 to maybe even 33.6 degrees Celsius at most, given the fact that we're shaded in some goldish shades and so 2 degrees Celsius above normal. It would make sense that it would be somewhere between 31 and 33 degrees Celsius at most. And we have, unfortunately, some maintenance outage advisories here from my JPS Online's Twitter page that we have to highlight. I know that we have to highlight this because that when we have power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, please let them know that a power outage is coming their way on Saturday, May 10, 2025. We're referring to Caribbean Park in the parish of St. Mary from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're also referring to Lorna Avenue, Little Greendale and environs, all in the parish of St. Catherine from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And finally, sections of Tivoli Gardens and environs in the parish of Kingston from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, when outside, seek shade. Eat fresh, try eating cold foods such as salads and fruits. Rest, make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak, take a cool shower or bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty. And put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry ear map. We know that the dry ear is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we can see that there's a lot of dry air across portions of the Bahamas, the Greater Antilles right here, a lot of dry air across the northern portion of North Atlantic, as well as the eastern portion of the main development region. We know that the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for us to get rainfall this time of year, if not storms this time of year. But what we like to see is the moist air in the blues. We see a lot of moisture across the southern Caribbean, the eastern Caribbean, the southern main development region, the intertropical convergent zone of the Atlantic and the Pacific. We see moisture across the Gulf, across the waters to the east of the US, and that's what we want to see. We want the moisture so that we can get more rainfall to keep water in our pipes for sure. But regarding the Saharan dust forecast for 18 UTC on Friday, well, that shouldn't be saying Friday, that should be saying Saturday. Oh no, I think this map is glitching out. It should be showing Saturday. Okay, here we go. So now we're looking at Saturday. It was glitched out. Now we're looking at 1 p.m. on Saturday. So tomorrow is Saturday. We see a string of some slight Saharan dust extending from the main development region into portions of the central Caribbean waters to the south of Hispaniola. But we see that it's nothing significant, maybe anywhere from a 1 at least up to a 12 in the dust concentration near ground, especially right here across the intertropical convergent zone of the main development region. And we're glad that it is the low end of the scale in terms of dry air, in terms of Saharan dust, actually. Because we don't want this at all. We don't want these dark shades of browns that represent anywhere from 25 all the way up to 1,000. That means very hazy skies that can trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses, asthma, sinusitis at all. We're indeed grateful that all of us here in the Greater Antilles, Jamaica, are all in the clear for 1 p.m. on a Saturday. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we see that we still are going to be getting on those light shades of blues to dark shades of blues across much of the Gulf into the Bahamas and the Greater Antilles. That represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height all the way up to 1.5 meter wave height. Starting to get a rise in the wave heights to the north of Colombia, where we see these purples, 2 to 3 meter wave heights for sure. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We see more of an easterly flow. Winds are definitely picking up. Starting to see more bright shades of greens. We're starting to see the yellows again, especially to the north of Colombia, up to 25, maybe even gusting to 30 knots at most. We see more of a, let's say, a northwesterly flow across much of the Gulf, maybe a southwesterly flow into portions of Florida as well. And we see the ridge of high pressure. It's definitely situated right here, right there. Is it gonna be the ridge, or is it gonna be that area of low pressure? Either way, we see the winds blowing from east to west around it. And if you take a closer look at Jamaica's waves before we look at the winds, in terms of our waves tomorrow on the north coast tomorrow, let's say up to 1.1 meter wave heights to the north of St. Anne, 1 meter wave height to the north of Portland, 1.1 meter wave height to the north of Hanover, 0.9 of a meter wave height right here to the south of Westmoreland, 1.1 meter wave height to the south of St. Elizabeth, 0.9 of a meter wave height to the south of Clarendon, and 1.3 meter wave height right here to the south of St. Thomas. And that's because of these winds. We see more of an easterly flow right here, especially on the south coast where we see the bright greens and the yellows. So clearly the winds on the south coast are going to be stronger than the north coast. North coast only up to 12 knots right here to the north of Portland, up to 17 knots right here to the north of Hanover. Look at the south coast now, 17 knots to the south of St. Thomas. It's 20 knots to the south of Clarendon. 18 knots right here to the southwest of St. Elizabeth. Very interesting. And we also see that we have the least amount of winds right here across inland areas of some central and western parishes. Wherever we have the blues, that's where we have the least amount of winds. That could mean, wherever the clouds are going to be piling up for the daytime heating convection, that afternoon rainfall for sure. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. So will we be getting that afternoon isolated rainfall across inland areas of some central and western parishes? And with the upper level winds coming in from the northwest, it could favor more of the convection being blown off towards the southeast as opposed to the east that we got today. So we see how the clouds were being sheared off towards the east today. If we actually get the convection in the same spots tomorrow, just like today, those cloud tops will be sheared off towards the southeast, maybe bringing more overcast skies to section of some southern parishes, and sometimes it brings even rainfall to those areas wherever the upper level wind shear is blowing towards. And regarding the actual rainfall forecast maps now, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both valid for 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. And what do both maps show? Blues that represent rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, western parishes. We see sections of eastern St. Thomas shaded, Kingston, St. Andrews, southwestern Portland, section of St. Catherine shaded, section of western St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, northern St. Elizabeth shaded on the GFS. The Euro showing Westmoreland, section of St. James, southwestern Trelawney, northern St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, southern St. Anne, northern St. Catherine, northern St. Andrew, and southern St. Mary. And we also see eastern St. Thomas shaded. It's going to be very interesting to see how Saturday afternoon plays out. So it looks like it's going to be rainfall for eastern, central, western parishes on Saturday afternoon. Even both Euro and GFS total accumulated precipitation forecast notes are adamant that it's going to be raining somewhere in Jamaica within the next 24 hours. Euro going up to the dark greens and yellows represents maybe up to 0.3 of an inch of rainfall. The GFS going only up to at least 0.15 of an inch of rainfall in the greens. Whatever happens, we'll take it. We're in the month of May. We usually receive an increase in the amount of rainfall across the island. In Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we usually receive up to at least 140 millimeters of rainfall. In Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom, we usually receive up to 6 inches of rainfall. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of May or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that website will show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. You know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you can do the math yourself. Alright, so that is it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have the clouds associated with that frontal system, maybe the low pressure areas across portion of the southeastern US. We see some low level clouds being, strung out into portions of the eastern Caribbean, coming into the central Caribbean. The usual thunderstorm activity across portion of northern South America. The usual afternoon thunderstorm activity across portion of Puerto Rico. Let us zoom in on the Doppler radar imagery over there across Puerto Rico. We can see some rainfall across portion of northern Puerto Rico and eastern Puerto Rico as we speak. The waters in and around the British Virgin Islands, the waters in and around Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, section of Guadeloupe as well. And if we load these images from earlier today, we can see that Puerto Rico central and western areas definitely gotten on a soaking, moderate to heavy rainfall at that in the yellows and the reds. We also see some rainfall in and around Guadeloupe, Dominica, and then if we take a look at the Barbados radar, not seeing much of anything right now, but they definitely got some rainfall earlier that pushed off into portions of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Tobago got on some of that rainfall. So too Martinique, Dominica got on some of that rainfall as well. And regarding the weather view of Doppler radar images, we can see that rainfall across sections of Guyana, section of western Suriname, eastern Venezuela, Colombia, northern Venezuela, sections of Guatemala and the Yucatan Peninsula getting on their fair share of rainfall as well. Regarding where most of the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that the most rainfall should be across the waters of the Gulf, the Yucatan, section of Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, section of Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, section of Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua. Well, Panama was over here as well as Costa Rica. So what I should have said over here was Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, section of Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados over here with some isolated showers. We also see some rainfall definitely in store for section of Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, section of Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin, Montserrat, sections of the US and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, some isolated shores for section of Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic. And we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with that forecast. I know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.